Well, boys, I fucking sent her a little too fucking hard, but I really hope oh, fuck, but damn, I hope my radiator's good.
Hey YouTube, welcome back to the Driver Mod. My name's Anthony, and this is my 2005 Ford F-250 with 6.0 Powerstroke. Now yesterday we had a surprisingly more eventful trip than we were expecting. We went down to Winter Haven. I did my CDL course for the day, and after that we went down to Fort Myers because we actually picked something up that's going to be a tremendous help here in the future, as long as the 6.0 is okay, because as you saw in the title, the 6.0 might have just bit the dust. But we made it home. We had no power, no boost. The engine temperature was pegged. It was acting erratically. So I'm going to go over with what we did to troubleshoot it on the fly, on the road, with no tools, and maybe potentially help out, you know, another 6.0 owner down in the future. You know, if this does happen to your truck and you on the road, definitely take it seriously, because you don't know what it could be. It could be just a sensor, or it could be something, you know, more catastrophic and serious. But I'm going to show you what I did to troubleshoot this. All right, so yesterday on the road, obviously, we were, 3 hours into our trip. The temperature started acting really erratically. It would sit at about, 180, 190. It would spike up to 220, come back down to 200, go up to 230, come back to 210. It would go up to 240, 250, and then come back down as if everything was normal. So what I initially thought, you'll see the check engine temperature warning continues to come on. The truck is completely ice cold right now. Let it sit overnight, but the temperature warning, see the gauge, it's back down to the middle, but it'll go between, all over that range. So initially I thought I just had, an air pocket. I had just replaced the coolant expansion tank. So our initial diagnosis was, an air pocket. So I pulled over, popped the hood, very careful about releasing the, expansion tank. I saw it was low. So we went ahead and release the cap. Obviously, when the truck is hot, be careful doing this. Release it a little bit at a time and let the gas bleed off. Obviously, like I said, we're ice cold. It's been sitting all overnight. You can see the level is at the full mark on the expansion tank, but it wasn't yesterday. It was towards the bottom. So I thought, all right, we just had an air pocket working itself out. So we topped it up, let it sit. The temperature ultimately did go back down to the normal range, so I thought we were good. So we continued the trip, and not more than 30 minutes later, the temperature kept acting erratically again. So, me still thinking that it was, the engine was actually overheating. We backed off on the power, slowed the truck down about 50, 55 miles an hour. And keep in mind, I was towing nothing. It was literally just the truck cruising in cruise control here in 90-degree Florida. So I thought, we had, another issue. So then I thought, maybe it's the fan, You could hear the fan howling, so I know the fan was working. So we've already ruled out, the air pocket at that point, because it started doing it again, and the coolant level was full when I checked it. The second time I pulled over, fan was working. So then I started thinking, do we have a more serious issue going on here? So I let it come back down. Fortunately, it did come back down to normal after I pulled over. So we continued driving, and I just babied it. We got to our destination, and everything seemed fine. I let it cool down, checked all the fluids. The fluids were all good. We were at the location for about an hour because we actually picked up a trailer so we can tow the cars, whatever we need to with the truck. Obviously we had the truck, but now we needed a trailer to actually do the hauling portion of this. This is a Futura Super Sport. It's a 16.5 foot all aluminum trailer, fully lowers to the ground. It has a full winch system. Everything's controlled within this. It has a solar panel, a battery in there. It has a trickle charger, tie down straps. The trailer is so light when it's on the ground, you can move it around by yourself, no problem. And as you can see right there, comes all the way to the ground. You can just drive right up on it by yourself. You don't need anybody, no help loading. You can literally do everything on your own. We got the rock guard, we got the tie down straps, we got a spare wheel and tire, so we're good to go for our trip to Kentucky that is in 2 days. And we're having these problems with the truck right now. All right, so now we're gonna get to part 3 of the diagnosis. So we picked up the trailer, we left AutoQuest, down the road, temps are fine. 30 minutes into the trip or so, 45, whatever, starts acting up again. Only this time, the temperature went up to 254. The coolant temperature went up to 254, and then it plateaued there. It didn't budge, and it remained 254. No matter if I pulled over, stopped, popped the hood, sat and idled the truck, it stayed at 254. Coolant was full, fan was running. So I started thinking to myself, you know, what is going on here? So for this portion of the diagnosis, you know, I'm thinking, okay, coolant's at 254 degrees. That means when I pop that cap, that coolant should boil over, right? So be very careful, because you don't know what you're dealing with at this point. So I went ahead and backed the cap off. Coolant had a little bit of a bubble, a little bit of a gas release, but it did not boil over. And coolant at 254 degrees should have blown out of that thing. So the next thing I looked at was my oil temps and my transmission temps. The transmission oil and the engine oil temps were all at normal temperatures. All, you know, transmission was like 160, 150, and engine oil was between 200 to 220. So nothing excessively hot. And that would all make sense to make me think that it was the coolant temp sensor. It was still acting like it was overheating, so it was cutting the power, cutting the boost. You know, the transmission was trying to save itself, so it was short shifting. And we limped it home with no boost, no power, about 3 hours, and we made it home. Now, if it had been something severely catastrophic, we definitely would have blown something up. I'd have oil in the coolant this morning, I'd have coolant in the oil or something along those lines, but we don't. So that makes me very confident that we have diagnosed this as a coolant temp sensor. Now, when I got this truck, the cooling system was not in great shape from what I could see. The coolant was really brown and watery brown, you know, not milky like oil or anything, but it definitely wasn't in great shape. The coolant expansion tank had a bunch of just crud in it. It just did not look the greatest. Never had any issues with it overheating like this. That's why I thought it was the expansion tank and being an air pocket. So we've got it down to the coolant temp sensor. We're gonna go ahead and replace that. And if it's still giving us issues, then we might have some restriction in the radiator. But we're gonna hope it's just the coolant temp sensor. With the condition of the cooling system, like I mentioned, it probably ate away at the head of the coolant temp sensor. So we're about to find all that out and show you guys. Fast forward a little bit. We've got the coolant temp sensor, the old one, loosened. We had to back the charge pipe off, rotate it, remove the air box assembly and hoses, took the expansion tank outlet from the radiator off just to give us as much room as possible. And you've got to use a 21mm wrench to break that free. We were able to sneak a wrench in there and get it free. You don't have room for a socket. If you had like a medium length 21mm socket, it might work, but we were able to get a 21mm wrench in there. You gotta kind of get creative. So we're gonna go ahead and back that one out. You're gonna lose some coolant, and then here is our new sensor. So this is what it should look like when it comes out. We'll see what the old one looks like. All right, guys, I'm pretty sure we definitely just found the culprit. It is definitely this coolant temp sensor. As you can see, the debris on it, and then on this side, it's actually got a piece of it missing, and you can see part of the inner workings right there. So that was definitely causing this thing to short out and cause a false temperature reading. So we've got everything. We've got the new one in there, all connected up, finishing reassembling the truck, and then we'll go for a test drive to verify this fix. But definitely a sigh of relief that it was something so relatively simple. All right, guys, moment of truth. And the warning's gone. Go ahead and fire it up. All right, so before we had a temperature gauge that was spiking. We're back at the cold, and we had no boost, no power. So we're gonna go ahead and monitor the PIDs, take it for a test drive, check the coolant level, top it off if needed, and hopefully we just fixed it and we're good to go to Kentucky in 2 days. Driving the truck right now. I also forgot to mention we had no AC. So when the truck is overheating, it's gonna short shift the transmission, it's gonna reduce AC performance, and reduce your boost pressure. And we're already seeing just, you know, lightly throttling it, 6 to 8 psi of boost. So looking good so far. Just waiting for everything to come to temperature and drive around probably a good 20-30 minutes and see what we see. Well, we just did a 30-minute test drive. Coolant stayed spot on about 188 to 195, depending on how much we were pushing it. So definitely say we fixed the problem. We've got boost, we've got AC, all's good. Ready to get to Kentucky and have some fun with the Shelby guys at Red Mirror events for 3 or 4 days. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you drop a comment down below. Let me know if you were as scared as I was. I wish I would have had my camera on me during the actual, you know, trip down there portion, because then I could have all filmed it real time. You really could have seen the, I was a little bit nervous about what was going on, but as I started to, you know, troubleshoot step by step, you know, it slowly made more sense what was going on. Ultimately, what we ultimately found, or ultimately what we found, you know, fit the description of what we were experiencing. So happy to see it was just a $40 part. Remember, never overlook the simple stuff. Still do your basic troubleshooting. Rule out all options that you possibly can to really simplify the diagnostic process and narrow it down to, you know, hopefully 1, 2, or maybe 3 possibilities. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next one here at the Driver Mod. Take care, everyone.